So, are we live now? Yes, we are. Hello. Uh, Today is another session that we have in regards to our therapist couch. My name is A.G. Ilbegi. I'm a cognitive behavioral therapist. I'll be your host today. And we'll be having a talk today with Alta Tuholi. She is a trained psychotherapist and a psychologist. And we'll be talking about the social trauma and collective unconscious in digital era. I think this is going to be very interesting. And I'll be waiting for her. Is she here? Let me check. And invite, yes, with me. Is she in? I accepted her. There she is. Hello.
Here we go. Hello.
Here we go. How are you, Alta?
Good. All well. What about you?
Well. I'm not doing bad myself. It's been a long time.
Yeah.
And I'm looking forward to our talk today. And this
Same
is something which I believe is very, very interesting, could be.
Yeah.
Because to a lot of audience and a lot of people, it's not clear the whole thing with when people say unconscious and so forth, you know, they don't get the right answer for that. And especially, and not only that, and the second thing is also digital area or digital era, we say, you know, because digital era is something very new and these two things are coming together. So could you tell us a little bit about this? I mean, unconscious, what is unconscious? What?
Yeah, of course. Well, first of all, thank you for giving me the possibility to be here. And I think even though due to COVID, we all are doing most of our job online, I think that somehow we have found a way how to be together and get in contact together, even as colleagues. As my name is Olga, I'll briefly make an introduction about myself. I'm a training psychoanalyst from Sigmund Freud University, Vienna, and I work as a psychoanalyst under supervision. And in the same time, I do several other stuff that has always been passions in the beginning, but now there have been major jobs like writing and doing copywriting, and as well working in the creative fields like arts and always with the connection of mental health. I live in Milan, and and I'm part of the Tokitus team as well. Well, the topic indeed is really interesting, and what impressed me is the transformation that the term digital has taken recently in the recent years, in the sense that the term digital has always been there, but recently we have seen a new development of it. Some might say positive, some might say negative. I would like to be positive in this talk, because somehow, to me, digital is what saved us from all what happened this last year with COVID. Not only people that were seeking mental health treatment, but as well people that were trying to find out a new way how to express themselves and how to be collaborative. So before going into that, what is collective unconsciousness? This is a dear term that I have, that I'm always curious at. Because to me, it's something that we always carry on from our past, but it doesn't belong to us exclusively. It's something that is related with us as a group. So in it, we have culture, we have shared communication, we have shared perspectives. And what is interesting is that in the digital area now, we often forget about the community. But actually the community is there. It's just that maybe it has taken an invisible form. Maybe it has been transformed. So this is why I wanted to kind of go into that in this talk. So, well, I mean, if we want to be...
But one thing which is important to understand, because I said initially the unconscious, you know, unconscious, one thinks of a singular person themselves, but collective, that's an important thing.
It's,
where it's much more than just you thinking of yourself, as you're a part of of a community of I mean, if you want to expand it, of the globe now, especially with the digitalizing,
Yeah,
you're way bigger and you have much more reach than you ever did
exactly.
before. And the
Exactly.
information that gets to you, that something happens in distance, in thousands of miles away, now
Yeah.
you know it right away. Before,
It's
you know, you just
beautiful,
knew what
right?
was going on next to your door. It's a
It's
double-edged
both. Okay.
sword,
Yeah.
so to
Yeah.
say. You know, it
I
depends how
think
you want to look
yeah.
at it.
I think I have both arguments on it. Well, it's beautiful
Yeah.
because, of course, I mean, starting from the let's say from the traditional definition of the unconsciousness, which is, of course, Mr. Jung. As Carl Jung said, I mean, for those that they don't know, it's a famous psychoanalyst, and he really believed on the power of the collective unconsciousness in one psyche. And according to him, we have both. We have collective unconsciousness and personal unconsciousness. And actually, he was very famous coining out beautiful terms such as persona, which is actually a mask that an individual puts on in order for his ego to confront with the world. I'm coining this
Okay.
term because I think it's very important, even when we talk later about what masks we put now on the digital age, on the present time that we live on. And regarding the positive or the negative aspects we were talking, well, the beauty of this world going online is, as you said, everything is so rapid, happens in the fingers of one hand. You
Yeah.
have easy access. You might be in one place without having the possibility to be physically in one place. And here I'm talking about minorities, for example, old age, people suffering from physical problems. They could be anywhere. They could be in an exhibition. They could meet their psychoanalyst without leaving their, or therapist without leaving their home. But the negatives, what can some negative aspect be? Well, before going to that, I wanted to maybe ask myself whether we can talk about a collective unconsciousness in the individual age or in the digital age. The two me are pretty much the same. Well, I think what we have to do now is, of course, a constructed reality. And I think never before we have had the chance to see something so constructive beyond dreaming. So we were all the time faced with one constructed reality, which is dreaming, even though we have never succeeded maybe to interpret that or to analyze it fully. We somehow know that it's a reality that happens beyond our power, let's say. Whereas now we have something that is constructed out of extra forces that we don't know, and as a result, a paradigm is showing out. If with dreams, it's easy for us because for example, in therapy, if I give an example of therapy, we can allocate how the normal process of recovery happens. First, you identify a problem. Second, you allocate the problem in time and space. And then is the resolution of that problem. So to me, the key word is allocation. So what therapy does, makes possible, is allocating in time and space the problem or the issue or the manifestation or the idea, we can call it whatever. Whereas in the digital area, it's fascinating, but it's scary in the same time because it's like the other, it's like the Lacanian other. We don't see it, so we don't have the possibility to allocate it. So what we do in these terms, well, I'm not in the position to have a quick answer because even for us, it's something very experimental. We have started to work online only recently, only in the last year. I mean, I have some experiences working online, but they were not so often. So I do believe that we will see the results of this I hope, in soon future.
Okay, now coming to the point of bringing this whole digital thing inside, that means when you're talking about being conscious, unconscious, collective, and so forth, this has given, as I said previously, the possibility to show ourselves and have an identity, perhaps, and that's also one case, in being online. You can see that, for example, in many cases, some make fun of it, but there's a lot of truth in it, you know, that they make a good selfie and I'm so and so, I'm so happy, and then they put it on, they start crying, you know, or
Yeah.
that they're not they're showing to be something that they wish to be but they're not.
Yeah.
And sometimes, I mean, I think you know this, in DSM-5 they already started this thing with gaming addiction, you know. But
Yeah.
it's not only gaming, it's shopping, it's this, it's that, because you have
Of
everything
course,
in the palm of your hand now.
the consumerist area.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then you also, on the other side, who am I going to be, or who do I want to
Of
be
course.
in this place?
Yeah.
And does that there comes a lot of conflict between
Yeah.
who I really am and who I want to
Absolutely.
be?
Absolutely.
And
Because I
how
think,
does that go around?
yeah, because maybe out of the, maybe it is or it's not out of the topic we're talking about, but the idea of consumerism has made possible nowadays more than ever to differentiate between people that are part of this group or people who are not part of this group. And unfortunately, people
Right.
who are not part of this group, they are considered like the outsiders or the others. For example, there is this group of people, the majority maybe, that has the possibility to have a credit card, to shop online, to buy whatever they need, whereas someone that doesn't, for example, not even have a credit card, a job, or a secure income, he's automatically considered as someone not belonging to this group that we automatically have chosen like the privileged one. So this is where I think the shift starts without bringing it in the therapeutic process. It's a social dilemma. It's something that we somehow we are as well expelled because we don't expect these people to even look for therapy, because how can they have access to what we have, to this virtual world, if you don't have the possibilities? But then coming to the identity, yeah, it's interesting because to me it's a power between security and freedom. Well, in order to give up on security, in order to gain freedom, you need to give up on security, and in order to give up on security, you need to do the other way around. So somehow it's a dilemma that has continued forever and it's following us forever. But the identity is interesting because it doesn't occur in isolation. I mean, we need a mirror. We need to confront ourselves with the other. Well, absolutely, this has changed the way this is done recently. I mean, it's a notion that by itself, identity is very elusive and ambivalent. But however, it has become a key concept on understanding the nature of the social life and personal exchanges. What I will quote while talking about identity is a very dear sociologist of mine, who is Zygmunt Bauman. I think many people might know him. He's very famous writing about liquid modernity. This Polish sociologist, he is amazing. I mean, in the way he describes the anxiety of this post-consumerist society, but not only. As well, he says, we are born with a task. The task is to create your own community. So somehow this is the first task that the identity has. It's a job. Can you imagine to be born and to be raised with this task? So already you can see the twist on the way we are supposed to develop our own identity. And now actually in my mind comes a play from Henrik Ibsen, I think, which is Peter Gynt in 1886. Actually, the guy who was afraid that he would be stuck in one character for the rest of his days. So what he did is that he was inventing the character each day. But in the end of the life, what he says is that where was I in the end, the real man? So this is why it comes to my mind when we think about identity. Is like we can't ignore the question, who are we really?
And of course that gets you when you're also dealing with other kind of identities, of course then you get a little confused here and there.
Yeah.
No, I understand that. Now coming to this whole thing with the unconscious of so to say the collective, how does that unconscious connect with the social, like traumas and so forth? How does that fit so together? Because what I'm thinking is okay, it's unconscious, as we said earlier.
Yeah.
But there's something which is collective. I also heard about this was actually, it was psychoanalytic as well, during the Second World War, where this unconscious trauma that the people had, they would have like similar dreams.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that was something which was incredible. So
Yeah.
there is connection in the community, so to say, in the collective, and this can be triggered by their environment and so forth, which
Yeah.
they're not fully aware of, so it's unconscious. Now, how does that go with the social trauma, with traumas which are
Yeah.
basically, as
Yeah,
you
I
say,
mean,
it's also
yeah, I mean, in
unconscious?
connection with what you're saying, and I read this wonderful book from a therapist on the 40s, I think after the First World War, that she was
Mm-hmm.
doing this research on exactly reporting the similar dreams that people were having during the
Mm-hmm.
war, and she saw that actually there were certain elements that were the same, and regardless the social or the familiar situation that one was part from.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, so your question was how is related the identity or the digital with the collective unconsciousness?
Now, see, the thing is, one thing which is definitely prevalent is the identity in regards to
Aha.
the
Yeah.
digital form. That's one thing, okay?
Yeah.
The other thing that I was asking you was
Yeah.
in regard to traumatic. What is that? Because there is a question which I have: how does the
Mm-hmm.
collective unconscious connect with social trauma?
Yeah. 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 Well, I think that what social trauma is a way how the society remembers what was done to it. So it's
Mm-hmm.
a way of remembering how something on the past really influenced what we are
Mm-hmm.
in the present. The collective, to me, the collective unconscious is like a big matrix
Mm-hmm.
where a program of networking connects with different people,
Mm-hmm.
but people that comes from the same culture. So this is very important. We might say that,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, for Jung, that was more broad. For Jung, we have a collective of cultures that maybe people in Asia share the same maybe dreams or archetypes with people in the Balkans. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I'm not against it, but in order to
Yeah.
speak for a real social trauma, for me, first of all, the main prerequisite is that we have a certain a certain defined number of years. So are we talking about 50 years, 100
Mm-hmm.
years? So in order to
Mm-hmm.
speak about clinically, I think that we need not more than 50 years or 70 years to speak about. So it's important to take into account the generations that were influenced from it.
Mm-hmm.
Second of all, I think that if we speak about social trauma, that has to be necessarily people coming from the same background in order to really connect with what happened
Mm-hmm.
with that in that particular time. Well, there are many things that remind us of the past. You starting from the architecture. I mean, you have buildings on the street that remind you about a
Mm-hmm.
specific past. It can be communism, it can be fascism, it can take whatever form it takes. So how is the individual connected with it? Well, it is a deterministic approach that sometimes I don't prefer uh,
Mm-hmm.
arguing, because to me, someone can have the choice to be free. Someone can decide to start from zero, no matter where he comes from. So it's a matter of wish. But unfortunately,
Mm-hmm.
we are obliged to be remembered who we are. So what can we do in this case? We can't erase
Mm-hmm.
all the symbols. We can't erase the
Mm-hmm.
memories. What we can do is, to me, is the positive reintegration of these elements in a in a in a clear vision of the present. So, meaning,
Mm-hmm.
who are we? What do we want to do? Where are we heading? And not
Mm-hmm.
necessarily seeing it in a negative perspective.
Mm-hmm. 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 Now, was something that really interests me. I may have a few questions here, but we're getting to that. I think this would be also very interesting for people due to the fact that now what we're doing right now is due to the new technology that we have, and everything has its pros and cons naturally, and
Yeah.
how to use it best. I mean, I remember also going back, people where they put a picture in there or show their identity. They want to be somebody else when they
Yeah.
actually go and show themselves.
Yes.
Now, what you said is that this will, to a certain extent, either confuse you depending on your character and your
Yeah.
personality, or it could be a fun thing for people. to actually do. But now there is a possibility due to this technology that one can actually completely have another character in a digital form, virtual form, and that, of course, will sink into you more and more. So you have to act that person and so forth. And a lot of people have issues also with that. And therefore, in this digital era, what do you think would be the best thing to do not to get sucked into this?
What reminded me is the idea of forced identity. It's like we want it or not, we are forced in a position where our identity needs to be part of a community. Because now the values, according to me, has shifted, meaning you either accept to be accepted rather than belonged. So belonging is replaced, unfortunately, with a notion of acceptance. Because acceptance is something very short proven. So I need, am I involved in this? Am I involved in that? Am I good or bad? Depending on likes that you get, depending on the visual groups that you are
that's
part
very
of.
important.
Absolutely.
Because I heard a lot of people saying, I did this, I got 20 likes and so on and so forth. Oh, but I put this picture, I didn't get anything. Oh, wasn't that good? What's wrong with me?
Because there are metrics that we have decided. These are our own metrics. Someone made it up and we believe in them. So somehow these now are the medium. So we are like, are we close to the medium, or how far are we to the medium? So rather than investing on ourselves how to belong, but belonging is somehow a very romantic world, but very beautiful in the same time, because belonging means wanting something and working hard to get it. It's something that, first of all, you need to be sure whether you want it or not. Whereas in this fast world of technology, we just want to be accepted no matter what. We just want to be, we need our phone to ring. If our phone doesn't ring for 2 or 3 hours, it's like, how come someone hasn't written to me in 2 or 3 hours? Am I forgotten? So is this a reality check that has been distorted? But however, again, we have another paradox, which is the paradox of visibility and isolation. So nowadays, we can't choose to be isolated. So we are part of a public that has somehow a private imagery. So you can't choose to withdrawal. You can't choose to be silenced. You need to be present. Otherwise, you will be forgotten.
Now, no, because this is so interesting, and there's so many things going on through my head, because which I've also experienced too, and I think a lot of people will relate to that. The thing about this whole identity and these new identities that one makes for themselves, especially, it's very dangerous, I would say, in the time where the children are, and nowadays they're all digitalized and they're looking. I mean, my time, there was none of that. So if there was something out, I would go run. I mean, we would be much more active. Now it's very much focused on what is going on there, what game there is, the gamings, I'm so-and-so, and they become very good in a certain game or a certain personality in that virtual world, okay? And they don't want to leave it. There was this issue in China where these people were playing for, I don't know how long, until they from exhaustion, they passed out, And then, I've seen this, it's amazing. And how this, as their personality is growing, with this, a lot of things happen in the brain. They begin to maybe divert or go separate it from the natural course of development, and that could be a huge issue. We're touching basically two main subjects here. One thing, the unconscious, the collective, and the other one, which is also very interesting, is this digital area, the digital world, where you can be 2, 3, 5, choose your avatar. Be your person. I'm like 10 person here. I'm the cutie. There, I'm the killer. There, I'm so on and so forth. Yes. So, and they relate to that. And I'm saying, if you're an adult, maybe you could handle it somehow. You notice it. You have this other, as they say, your super ego, so to say,
Yeah.
which tells you this is right or this is wrong, and so on and so forth. But as you're growing in this development area, development time, this could be very, very dangerous, actually, for the kids to just.
Yeah. Yes, I mean, yes or no, because when you say about they're deviating from the normal
I mean,
development,
normal. What's normal? But I'm
yeah,
saying, as
yeah,
a
this
human, the
is,
biology, that you.
yes, well, yes, but again, I believe that these are social constructs. I mean, in the past, we were
Mhm.
believed that being raised in nature is the best thing. Now we are believed that being part of the digital is the best advantage you can have.
Mhm.
Somehow, I tend to not fall a victim of the terms, because somehow you can never guess what will be the next trend. So somehow
Mhm.
it's difficult to say, as you said, what is normal, what is not. But what we are talking here is a anthropological, not only metaphor, but as well an anthropological um, um, metamorphosis. It's like
Mhm.
we are changing very rapidly, and
Mhm.
but the most important thing is that each individual is responsible as a social actor. So the point is to really kind of make people aware about what's going on, and as well making them aware about the possibilities that are on the table, and somehow
Mhm.
making them aware to make a choice. So it's
Mhm.
important to not only make the choice, but as well being aware what the consequences of these choices will
Mhm.
be.
Mhm.
Because what comes in my mind is that somehow, and again, I reconnect with what I was saying in the beginning of our speech, that we have constructed a virtual reality, which
Right.
maybe it's not similar to the dream, but to me it is. I feel like we are somehow as somnambults walking around,
Mhm.
trying to touch the end of the tunnel, but
Mhm.
and maybe it's happening, maybe it's not. But
Mhm.
what is important is, of course, is to enjoy
The ride.
the ride, to enjoy the ride. Yes, yes,
Enjoy the. I mean,
yeah,
that's a great way of thinking about it. Whatever is happening, you're in there, or you're on this wave. You got to go through it. I mean, there are some
yes,
choices that you have, but when you have
absolutely,
no choice and you're going, hey, might as well enjoy the ride, like in the roller coaster. Yeah,
yes,
but you have to have the understanding for that, and some people lose this completely. They lose their identity in certain things. I mean, I can give you a very easy
yes,
example without getting
go.
into too much details. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Watch a movie. I watched a series for a longest time, okay, because I had the DVD then, I looked and it was so interesting, one, two, three. And then after a
Okay.
while, I was thinking myself with the character. I
Mm-hmm.
was mimicking him, and then I noticed, what am I doing? You
Oh,
know, Being
okay.
too long in a certain environment in your mind, I was mimicking the main character of the movie. He was a mobster, and he was
Mm-hmm.
having this New Yorker accent, like, hey, how you doing, and then all of a sudden I'm like speaking like that. I'm like, whoa, 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 whoa. But I was over 30 or 40, 30 or something years old, so I could click. But
Yeah.
imagine those who are, again, in their 20s or in their teens and so forth. That's why I'm saying it could be quite challenging, actually.
Absolutely, because I mean, to me, what we're hitting here is that we are questioning the issue of intimacy. So, in order to be sociable, you need to be somehow impersonal, meaning, and as well, in order to have some level of intimacy, it's almost
Hmm.
mandatory. You can't be intimate without, first of all, telling who you are. Someone will be
Hmm.
bored, right? You
Right.
can't say to someone, yeah, tell me who you are, without telling
Hmm.
first who you are. I mean, it will happen
Right.
once,
Right.
twice, but then, so it has a level of exchange. And the
Hmm.
need to be included in itself is ironic, because it requires this abandonment of the authentic self and belonging. But in
Hmm.
order to abandon your authentic self, first of all, you need to know who are you really. So
Hmm.
something that drives people online is the purchase, I mean, in different forms, of course, uh, even in the therapeutic service that we are offering, is the
Hmm.
power of mechanism to eliminate the differences among people. So Levi
Hmm.
Strauss, he was a famous philosopher, he rightly
Hmm.
talked about this, the fact that the difference is reproduced in order for
Hmm.
people to find themselves in these differences. So we can
Hmm.
find this, again, let's connect it with the idea of consumerism we were talking in the beginning. We find these
Right.
differences reproduced in supermarket, for example. You
Right.
now have thousands of choices. So the sense of belonging is replaced with a sense of inclusion. So I can afford buying because I have thousands of options. So I'm included. Before, when you didn't have the option of buying, you were excluded. But this inclusion, to me, it's not real. So coming back to younger people, but somehow now the age is a very gray area, because it's difficult to say what level of maturity requires certain things. So in this case, how do people know what they want in order to go and purchase it? So the sense of belonging, as we said, is replaced with a sense of inclusion. It's not important what we are getting. We just want to be included. That's it. That's the most important part. This is where it starts. This is where the game starts.
We're social animals,
yeah,
yes.
But the game is quite bloody, entertaining. Recently, more options you have, more entertaining it is, more people get hurt on the way, but doesn't matter, because the winner will be praised. So yeah, we are part of this circular.
Yeah, I mean, it's good to have so much choices, and this shows how far we've come. Before, it was like one type of thing, you can get that, this is it or nothing, you know.
Yeah.
And now there's tons of choices, but sometimes this could be very confusing. If you don't have two things, you have 100 things. I remember going to the supermarket, and I just knew if there was a milk this type or that type, you know. And I go, I'm in the U.S., and there is like 20 meters line of different types of milks, with vitamin this, with that, half and half, and I'm like, man, just give me a normal milk, you know. I just go down to basics, you know. I just give me that. And this was just an example. I mean, to have too much choice, everything, I think, what you're saying, and it always comes down to that, I think a certain balance is everything, but that one finds its balance. The other thing is, and this is in every context, I would say, the other thing I would say is when you're really thinking about knowing yourself, that's huge. I mean, we can say it very easily. Yeah, just get to know yourself, you know, or you know. But that is a great, I mean, a very important intention to do that, to get to know yourself. This comes from self-awareness. This comes from different things. You can get coaching. You can get therapy, or I mean, some people are stigmatic, you know, therapy. I'm not sick or something. That's got nothing to do with that. It's an understanding of yourself and your own nature and a lot of things which is unconscious to you, you know. And that's how you see yourself from a different light. Getting to know yourself is very, very important. And those who, of course, not everybody does that. And if you ask someone, do you know yourself? They're like, yeah, I know myself. That means they don't know anything, to be honest with you. That, you know, when they say, well, I don't, but I'm finding out more and more, I'm like, thumbs up. That's the way to do it. Okay. But in these cases, there is so much distraction in this digital world, so much distraction, that you know, you forget yourself, and then you become this avatar or something, and you go there and you become that, and you're like, oh, I love it, I like being like this, you know. And they try to imitate that in their quote unquote real, objective, physical, in this time-space reality, so to say. They try to be that, and it doesn't always work. And then they get into confusions and so forth.
Because I think more than following and getting to know yourself is constructing yourself in a vicious blind circle. Because as I mentioned before, we have, as I mentioned before, the division between consumerism, people who are not part of being consumers only because they don't possess a credit card, etc. But here I talked about differences, those differences that are created, that will create other differences. But more differences you create, more your long-term perspectives are being vanished and are being diffused. So what I want to say by that is that what the person is doing is that he's constructing his own way or his own life or his own self with the options that are there. So what do? You get a lot of options, you try them, like a new dress, doesn't fit you, you throw it away. But less options you have, more you try to make it work. Maybe you make the dress larger. Maybe you cut the dress. Maybe you try to make it work, right? Whereas now it's all about feeling the gray areas that are, as the character of the play, of the Ibsen play that I mentioned before, is like, who was I, the real man in the end? Because somehow, even though you are unconscious about this kind of emptiness, somehow I feel that people are starting to realize that this is an emergent situation and an emergent need to be filled.
Now, see, the thing is, when I'm looking at what's going on also today.
Yeah.
Now, it has a lot of pros and cons, this whole digital technology that we have, and it's getting better and better. I mean, the speed that it's going forward compared to if it would go on a normal pace of what we've done till now, what we've just imagine like building a building or the so to say advancements that we're getting. If it would take 1 year for that in the physical world, in the digital world, this is done in 1 hour. You know, I mean, it's really, the speed is amazing, and to keep up with that.
Exactly.
Now over there, which also, because we're all connected now, and we've seen that not only digitally, now through this whole COVID, we see that we're all in it together anyway. I hope at least from this experience that we learn and say and see that it's not only us and them, or there's a, you know, there's a wall between my country and your country, your culture and my culture. When it comes down to it, we're also, so to say, we're all connected. If you want it or not, that's how it is.
Yeah.
But the point is, what does one do when one loses themselves, so to say, in this? In regards to news, you on your mobile, it things up, you see it. You get to know about things which you're not really supposed to know, and if you do know, you cannot do much about it anyway.
Yeah,
you know?
It's like trash information.
Yes, and it's. I'm not talking about what the guy with the hair said, fake news. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about really news that is happening somewhere where you know, the only thing that you can do is feel bad, and that goes inside of you, where you don't need to, because that will affect you immediately. And sometimes people say, well, if I don't do that, I'm not a human being. I have to care. But if you have to care, you don't have to, like, by your pain will not ease the other one's pain.
Yeah, but because I think it's related very much with the self-esteem. Is like, in order to have a again, self-esteem is very much connected with identity. And as the distinction of online and offline is being more and more diffused, it is very difficult to determine, and the two are somehow directionally intercorrelated. So now the individual, what he wants to do is that not only he wants to fix the pre-existing reality, but he wants to unfold his own idea of the world. So I think that human beings were always curious, even before we were having the possibility to follow news online. I think we were always looking for troubles, because somehow that's a way how to show to ourselves how good we are. I think this issue of what you're bringing here now is an issue of solidarity, empathy, is something that has always followed us. But nowadays we see a pressure. So here we go again on the story of consumerism. How many commercials you see in a day of people being like, do charity here, make a little gift in here, give some money in here, children in Africa and everything. So now more than ever, we are talking about brainwashing, which again I relate is part of that elite that I was talking in the beginning, that elite that has made possible the construction of the social standards. So it's like, is this group of people who have the possibility to show what's the best. So here we have some trace of colonialization. So we show you what's the best, and you need, in order for you to be a good person, you need to follow it blindly. So it's more of a, and here again, we connect with the collective unconsciousness. So it's something that people, maybe many sociologists, maybe even Zygmunt Bauman that was mentioned before, they try to get certain theories from the past, but today they are more and more deformed because they don't have a real narrative. I think what is missing is the narrative. And I think the narrative is not only what bounds people to get together, but is as well that single element that brings linearity between the past, present, and the future. So now we have to deal with a deformed narrative because of many external factors. And what we want to do is that everyone wants to have its own narrative, to be a hero. I mean, in the end of the day, what we all want is to be a hero for a day, no? So being a hero for a day means somehow even taking it with yourself. Somehow we see people that go, I mean, here we have some narcissistic or destructive tendencies, but is this need to satisfy the desire of self-gratification, which in itself is inherently self-defeating. You are not going anywhere, so nothing can actually satisfy the desire, since there is nothing actually to satisfy in the end, right? So for like cultures that encourage this form of narcissism actually divert people from considering their own self-interest, since the requires to do this is reaching further perspectives. And as well, narcissism is based on the experience of each moment as absolute. So somehow what we do is we tend to glorify the past. And here again, we connect with collective unconsciousness, but as well to glorify our connection with the past, since without being asked, we define ourselves as a survivor. So this is where I think the transformation of the narrative starts. We see it even with clients when they come to the office. Somehow they are always survivors. So they come and it's like, yeah, I survived my childhood, I survived my mother, I survived the war, I survived myself even. So this is where it starts. And it's important for us to see each moment as absolute without judging it, not necessarily judging, but without interpreting it. So I think that...
But isn't that something that we automatically do? I mean, everything that we do, that's how the brain actually functions for our survival. Anything that happens, it tries to give it a meaning. It says, is it good, is it bad? And then it goes to the part where it thinks, have I experienced this before? Haven't I? Okay, this is good, this is bad. And of course, that comes from a lot of programming, conditioning, and so on and so forth.
Yes.
But initially, it was there, judgment, so to say. I'm saying everything in a healthy manner, okay? Not just everything in a balance, okay? And judgment is always there to give you an idea of what you're facing, or what could this be for your own security. That's the principle of it. But when we don't understand and we're too judgmental, before even hearing something, you're skeptic about it. You don't let it in, you know. And a lot of times, so you lose out of it without being self-conscious to see, okay, by the way, this is from my so-and-so, I'm judging again. You know, that you get with it, so to say.
Yeah. Because I think this comes as an involuntary disclosure of our character, in the sense that what we want to do is, first of all, we want to superimpose ourselves in the private and the public imagery. And by doing that, what we want to do is to, first of all, show, and again, we connect now with a famous mask, the Jungian mask we were talking at the beginning. Now you have the right to pick the one you want to be. As you said even before, it's very easy to diffuse itself the paradox of visibility and isolation. So before, you could choose to be visible or isolated if you I mean, depending on your needs. Whereas now there is not such a choice. You are either isolated or you are either visible. As I said before, in order to be included, we need to get rid of belonging. So in order to do this work, what we are doing is that we are giving it all or nothing. But by giving it all or nothing, of course, the consequences can be paradoxical, because somehow you might not be ready to be totally disclosed, or you might not be ready to be totally isolated.
Right. But what you're talking about is, so to say, extremes, you know, because either being fully there or being, I think maybe one they can try for themselves. I mean, I've noticed this, not in this extremes, okay, but like Facebook was a huge thing, you know.
Yeah.
On Facebook, I got this many likes, I did this, I did that, da, 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 and you know, they're on and on and on and on. And then the same person comes after about a few months, you know what? I think I'm going to turn Facebook off. I'm like, why? Because of this, and that, and so forth. So in, out. And then, you know what? After 2 weeks, you know, she was back in. And then she was back out. So there was some kind of, there was something going on there that she was not getting. It was in and out. So the question is sometimes complete withdrawal an option, you know, because there's so much, everything's disclosed, so to say. Yeah. And nowadays we know that also digitally, all your stuff that you're putting there, it's somewhere. You know,
exactly.
And people could get to it, which this whole thing came up with this analytics that they were selling your information back and forth. There was a huge issue that was there, and the whole world found out. So now a lot of people are more cautious about what they're putting, what pictures they're giving. Are they watching me? You know, Big Brother's watching, like George Orwell, 84, you know, everybody's checking, which we're not that far off. But how can that be? How can one deal with that? Fully withdrawal, or, you know, test the water and then go back and go forth? I mean,
well, I think it's a fake illusion. I mean, believing that you have the possibility to step in and step out whenever you want. I think it gives more elements to the trouble rather than solving the trouble itself. In the sense that, to me, going in, going out, it depends on the amount of the level that someone is doing it. But I'm wondering whether it's like a compulsive movement. Is it like an obsessive movement? Yeah, Thursday I'm closing it up, Monday. So that means there is something triggering you if you are not being cool about it, right? So what's the problem? So maybe if there is a problem, you want to close, maybe you want to take some days off. Yeah, of course. I mean, you need some detox day, absolutely. But achieving that maturity to handle things digitally, I think it's coming. Recently, we are becoming more and more aware. And as I said before, there is not an issue of doing it or not doing it. It's an issue of being aware of what you're doing, what the level, of the level of what you're doing, and what will be the consequences of your choices. For example, now I really enjoy the digital world because I have a whole of a program of what I enjoy doing it. For example, now one of the things that I really appreciate, I mean, except the fact that we can do therapy online, is the fact that you have all the realities online, in the sense all museums are going online, everything is going on online. Now we are not, I mean, now socials like Instagram, Facebook, etc., are something that are belonging to the past. Now we are talking about whole platforms where people can get connected in a very much complicated and interactive way. So now we are speaking about people being connected, minorities being connected, the artists being connected, people that don't know each other being connected, and somehow that gives a feeling of co-production, of co-relationship. And this to me is something very, very positive. But of course, everything should be done in a very cautious way. So this is why maybe we are here just to bring out.
Exactly. So again, cautious way, this and that. Again, I'm saying that's sort of a balance that one gives it. Looking at the technology and this whole digital world, I think it is very important to see both sides of it, not sugarcoat it, see both sides of it. Use the possibilities that you have in your own way. Don't get sucked into something which you don't want.
Yes.
And because the speed is very fast. It's moving up very fast. As you just said, Instagram is becoming history. Instagram started how many years ago, and you know, that is the case. And now, but one thing that to actually slowly round this up and conclude it, coming to support therapy and so forth, or talks, you know, because some people have this thing about therapy. I've heard, which is also because due to the past, and they thought anything to do with therapy, with psycho, the first thing they think of the movie Psycho, or someone's crazy, and so forth, which is all wrong. but it's a cleansing of inside. As you wash yourself daily or whatever, shower, it's a shower inside. Therapy, some people, therapeutic, going to a vacation is very therapeutic, that's okay. But going to someone and getting that done, that is not okay. See, there are these discrepancies, so to say. But now that we have this digital possibility, you don't have to go to someone actually physically. How do you think this whole thing with, is it good? How is this thing with, like what we're doing right now? Imagine I was your client or patient and so forth. How would that be different, better, worse, different than if one would go in person?
Yeah.
This is my final question.
As I said before, it's very soon for us to detect whether this could be the best way of treatment, or whether this could be, one of the way of treatment. Of course, personally, I believe that there is a big element in the physical disclosure and then the physical closeness that online therapy can give. But in the same time, I do believe that there is something so powerful on the online therapy that physical contact can't give. So one of them, for example, is the possibility to have clients from all over the world, and clients as well to choose therapists from all over the world. So this is this possibility of connecting that and freedom in the same time. So you have the freedom to choose what you want. You don't, for example, you don't want to have a therapist in your own culture, on the country you are born. And I mean, for example, I'm Albanian. I know that in Albania, you have possibilities of therapists. They are increasing recently, but only 10 years ago, they were very limited. So imagine other countries of the third world, or imagine other countries that are not maybe so developed. People now have a possibility to go online and choose a way of treatment. So this is powerful. This doesn't have anything to do with physical connectivity, but from the same time, physical connectivity is something that we need as human beings. We are used with that. We can't do without it in the moment.
Right.
But another thing,
Yeah, but from what you're saying, this is an added value, so to say. It's a choice also that we're getting.
Yeah.
And I think it should be also used, because in some places they say it's not the same and one cannot think of this as actually being physically together. Okay, maybe not, but there's a lot of help that it actually brings, a lot of clarity and help that it brings. So so with that, basically, I'm done with the
something about clarity is that just adding something is that as I stated in the beginning, is that we have never seen something so huge and so constructed before dreams as virtual reality. And what I believe is that and this is to me, this has given us a three-dimensional perspective, where is the reality we're seeing, the dreams, and now we have the virtual reality. So somehow what we have here is this, why did we as human beings got so disconnected from dreams? And it took a guy like Sigmund Freud to come out and say, no, wait a second, they're much closer than you thought, so let's analyze them. So are we going to do the same mistake of pushing away this virtual reality because we don't want it, because we don't know it from within? But tomorrow, that will be such an important part of our daily activities that we would have it necessarily to know it, to know its elements. So it's better to start soon, I believe, to get in contact with this virtual reality, rather than considering it as something that, well, either way, doesn't belong to me or to...
I see. And I think principally with that or anything else, one has to be fully, or get as much information as you can before you judge it, you know. That's definitely something which one can say about this or any other matter. Well, Olta, I thank you very much for this.
I don't know whether there are questions, but I haven't
well,
seen
the thing
none.
is, well, if you can see, because I'm I'm
here
on my phone.
And I just saw 2 comments, but if anyone that is online, I see a few people, want to ask us anything, we're here.
Okay. And go, gone. Anybody?
Oh, well. We were
All right.
just, no, maybe,
Anyway, no.
yeah. But I'm happy that they stayed with us and we had
Okay.
some
No, that's great
company.
because I'm gonna just inform the audience as well that we're having this therapist couch every Wednesday at 4
Yeah.
GMT. Some have, are different locations in the world. The time is different, so we just stick to that at 4 p.m. GMT. And I'll be looking forward to further hosting and talking about interesting subjects. And I think this is very important for everybody to get a little more acquainted with what how we are as people, what the psyche is, what therapy is, what coaching is, and so on and so forth. So there is no misinterpretations about this. I thank you for your time.
Thank you.
And hope to see you soon.
Bye-bye.
Okay, take care.
Yeah.
Thank you,
Ciao.
everybody.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.